Let's see.
Okay,
Starting. There it goes. All right, we're off and running. Go ahead, sir.
all right. Well, welcome everybody. This is our April installment of our Copilot Unleash Your Copilot Superpower Healthcare Industry Focused webinar. Um, I'm Andy Morris. I'm one of the modern work usage architects working with HLS customers. And the purpose of our session today is to talk through and go through some of the hopefully specific healthcare specific usages for Microsoft 365 Copilot and now Copilot Chat. We all know things are moving very quickly in the world today with Copilot. So we're here to kind of help keep you up to date on things and tell you some of the new things that are coming out and tell you some of the exciting things that are going on at all of our customers. So we're happy that you're here. We're happy that you carved out some time for us. So welcome. Nick, I think you've got some housekeeping items.
Yeah, a couple easy ones just as we go. Just for the start, we've got attendee microphone and cameras turned off. So if you have questions, please just drop them in the meeting chat. We'll be keeping an eye on those and kind of curating as we go. I don't think we have any polls in this session, but if we wind up adding one or we have a couple other speakers coming in, we'll see those pop up. As we go here in Microsoft Teams, if you click the More button up at the top and then go to Language and Speech, you can turn on closed captioning, which is kind of nice if we start talking fast following along. And then after today, the session will be recorded and saved, and so we'll send out the slides and everything once we're concluded. And then I think we might juggle our agenda just the tiniest bit because I don't see him coming back in. Andy, I know we were going to start kind of going over advanced analytics and our custom dashboard.
Mm-hmm.
But our peer Mark is delivering that and was resetting his router. So it's a hardware issue, not a Microsoft thing. He's going to come back into the session in a minute. So we've got a couple options. Maria, hi, thanks for coming on and joining. I was just explaining we might have to tweak our agenda just slightly. Yeah, I can cover this section on the great Copilot chat journey that's just come out, or we can do the Viva Graph connector demo first. Maria, do you have a preference? Do you need a minute to get situated, or would you like to roll right into that?
I'm pretty good. I can go into it if there's the need, but yeah, I'm good either way.
Why don't if you're okay and do that, then I'm gonna go see if I can run down Mark and just check him. We did intros a second ago, and so yeah, we'll kind of step through the Viva Graph connector in a second. Then I'll come back and do the great Copilot chat journey. Then hopefully Mark will be back and take us through some of the advanced analytics. And then Andy will take us through some roadmap items. So, all right, great. And with that, let me, Maria, I'll bring you on camera here in a second. Introduce you. Maria is one of our amazing peers, a cloud solutions architect focused on sort of all things AI and Copilot. And we asked her to come in today and just talk a little bit about the Viva Graph connector. And since this is a Microsoft call, we have to kind of clarify that a little bit, that we're talking about VEEVA, not VIVA. So if you remember in earlier sessions when we talked about Copilot and what Copilot can ground on, Microsoft 365 Copilot, when I do a search on any work-related data, it goes out and looks at the Microsoft Graph. All the information that I have and I've created and have access to inside of Microsoft 365. In this context, graph is a special word. It means a vector database is actually what it means inside of math. So when you hear people talk about Microsoft Graph, it's not a chart. It's actually just all your work data. And Copilot can see that. However, what if you have something that sits outside of Microsoft 365? Can I still use the AI tools as part of Copilot with it? The answer is yes, and that's where this concept of connectors comes in. So this is something that a Microsoft 365 administrator does. They connect the Microsoft Graph out to a third-party service. It could be ServiceNow, it could be Jira. In this case, it could be Viva. And that allows me to reason over this data the same way that I reason over my work data, like asking it questions about email or chats or things like that I have in Microsoft 365. So I'm really excited for Maria to come in. This is a question we get a lot is, this stuff is great, but we keep our health record system in something else. It's in Epic, it's in Viva. How can we get to it? How can we bring it in? And how can we work with it within Copilot? So with that, how's that for a queue up, Maria? All right, can I kind of toss it over to you?
Sure, perfect.
All right.
Let me actually share my screen in that case.
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah. So thank you for that, Nick. I think that really nails it in terms of understanding what a graph connector is. So what I want to cover today is probably an extension of graph connectors in terms of agentic experience. I think agents is a new buzzword in the Gen AI, in the field of AI right now. And the use of graph connector to bring in that external enterprise data gets really the best benefit when it is being surfaced through an agent. And the reason I say that is like Nick mentioned, you have your work data, all that you do in SharePoint, OneDrive, and whatnot. Then that's already in the graph that's used by the LLM to get the data, to get the response that you're looking for. Additionally, we are bringing in other enterprise data through graph connectors, like it could be ServiceNow for ticketing, or it could be Jira, Confluence. There are many other solutions that we focus on that we can bring in using graph connectors. Now, sometimes when you're searching for a particular thing within your particular a question, when you're asking a question to your Gen AI solution, to Copilot, it might get muddied. There's a lot of data. So what we've seen the best experience for end users is to build agents that is only grounded on the graph data. So when I say it's grounded, it's only looking through that graph data. So maybe you're chatting with Copilot, asking a bunch of things, and suddenly you want to ask a question about something in ServiceNow or something in Jira. And then you call this graph connector and you ask that question to the graph connector. At that point, you call this agent, graph connect agent that is grounded on the graph connector, to ask that question. At that point, the agent only looks at that particular graph data, graph connector data, and gives you a response. So I feel like the graph connector and the agentic experience go hand in hand for the best end user experience in getting faster and rapid results. So today's use case that I want to demo is, again, agents, like I said, has been the buzzword. Rather than just building an agent, we have a series actually going on right now where we have individual problem statements that we've been seeing between, like, our different healthcare and life sciences customers. And we're trying to see if agents can, provide the solution to those problems. And one such problem that we've been seeing is in the life sciences industries. So let me, as Nick said, it's a Microsoft event and it's VEEVA and not VIVA. Viva, that's a big thing. I didn't know what the Viva Vault was probably 7 years back. That's when I started working with healthcare and life sciences industry pretty much exclusively. And that's where I understood the Viva Vault is a big imprint, or has a big presence in the healthcare and life sciences industry, sorry, in the life sciences industry specifically, pharma industry specifically. So it is being used. Viva Vault has different modules. It's a platform, it's a content management platform that is used for creation of assets, marketing assets, in terms of the drugs that you want, and it also makes sure that the data that the assets that you have meets compliance requirements, especially most of the pharma companies that we work or that are here are our MNCs, multinational companies. So the regulatory bodies of individual countries would be different. So Viva Vault is one such content management system that's been pretty much present in most of the life sciences companies that I've worked with. Now, Viva Vault has multiple modules, like I said. Today's demo is just with respect to promo mats. I know there is quality, there is something else that's coming in, but we are going to just focus on promo mats, which is used primarily to build or to store assets, marketing assets, especially with drugs. And it is a compliance solution that is used across the life sciences industry. So what we are trying to tackle here is make the asset creation process while sticking to the compliance requirement across different regions, speed up that process through agents. And how we do that, we'll just get into it in a bit. Before that, I wanted to make sure, I don't know if you guys saw this, I think last year or maybe even the year before, we made Viva, the company Viva, we made a partnership announcement with them. So you can see this exist even in their site, where Microsoft was invested in building out graph connectors with Viva. So I believe this is probably one of the first healthcare and life sciences specific graph connectors that you might see there. And just back last month, we hit public preview with the Viva Promo Mats connector. There are different other ones, quality, CRM, the other modules that are coming in, which should be later this year coming into public preview. But the one that we are going to cover today, Viva Promo Mats, is already in public preview today. So if you are an IT admin and you wanted to set up Graph Connector from your Microsoft Admin Center, you should be able to see Viva Vault already in there. And I'm going to quickly show you that as well. So yeah, I think I've been talking quite a bit. Let's see what is this all about. So I am just going to switch to my Copilot screen. Okay, so as you can see, I'm in my M365 Copilot experience. So m365copilot.com if you went in there. And then I do have the agent created. But before I go ahead and demo the agents, this is a step which you as an IT or your IT admin has to do in order to use the Graph Connector to build agents for your specific use case. So if you went into your Microsoft Admin Center, you probably see under Settings, Search and Intelligence and Data Source. This is where I have the Viva Vault Promo Mats Graph Connector set up. It's a pretty straightforward wizard. We do have good documentation on what needs to be set up. There are certain things that needs to be set up on the Viva side, in addition to going through this wizard on the Microsoft admin side. But like I said, we've been pretty thorough in the documentation that we have, and I myself set it up based off that documentation. So this is the configuration which IT admins have to do. And additionally, I wanted to make sure you guys also saw the Viva UI. So right now, this is what the Viva Vault Promo Mats dashboard looks like. So if I went in here, as you can see, this is a sandbox environment. So we don't have probably if you are a life sciences company and we have Viva Promo Mats, your data is going to look a lot different. But you can see there are different, files, right, that are in here tied to compliance, some tied to medicine, drugs, and other things in place already in this tenant. So I'm logged in as Danny in this tenant, and I have those details listed here as well. Next, what we are going to do, like I said, there are certain configurations that you need to do on the Viva side as well. Now let's go in and see what this connector or what this agent is all about. So as you can see, I'm in the Copilot UI, and going into the side panel in here, I have a bunch of agents, and Viva Vault Assistant, that's the agent that we are going to talk about. And there are some starter prompts that I already have in place. So maybe let's use create a, yeah, I'm going to use this. Generate personalized content for customer interaction based on the research documents that is stored in my promo mats. So let's go ahead and click that. That's my prompt. It's always good to have a couple of starter prompts in your agent. So, they can, when there are new users, they know what are the type of questions that this particular agent can ask. So I'm a big fan of starter prompts. I don't think I have enough in this particular agent use case, but they do help in a better experience for end users as well. Okay, as you can see, it's brought in certain data. It's given some details. It is all coming in from the Viva Graph Connector or Viva Promo Mats instance. One other thing that I like is that each of those response that the agent gives, there is well-referenced citations to point where exactly does that response come from. I think this is a good way for you to, see or validate. As we say, it's Copilot and not autopilot. So always AI generated content may be incorrect. So you need to have that extra pair of eyes. And these citations are the best way to make sure what you're getting is what you intended on. Again, as you experience, as you use it a lot, I think you build that trust, but I believe that's something that helps in the beginning stages as well. So yeah, this is how the agent works. Now let's see, I want to kind of show what that agent looks like. I built this agent using the agent builder experience, but again, there is no need to go with the experience. Once you have the Graph Connector set up, you can build it from, if you want, you can build it from Copilot Studio as well, because right now it's already there in the index. You brought it into the index, the content from promo mats into the index through the Graph Connector. So let's just look at what my agent builder experience looks like. So just a name, description. Although I say this, you should have a lot of instructions. I am at fault for just having having like 2 points in here. I would say as elaborate as possible with instructions. And I think we've said it in the past as well. Instructions are super critical for agents, just like prompts are, very critical in terms of your quality of your Copilot responses. You'd be surprised that, certain operations which traditionally would have required coding and things don't need any of it if you just give the right instructions. So, yeah, I cannot stress enough on the fact that you can achieve great operations within agents just by extending or expanding on your instructions. So once you have instructions, right here in the knowledge source, you will see the different graph connectors that you have in place, and you use I've just enabled the graph connector here. Like I said again, a big fan of using different starter prompts. So I added a couple of starter prompts in here as well. Test it in the test canvas as and when you update, share as and when you create it, and then you have the option to share it with end users as well. So this particular agent, I've even shared it with a Copilot chat user. So if you saw this here, this is a user, my MOD admin. You can see the work and web toggle. So this user uses the M365 Copilot license, the paid version, the $30 version. But let me take you to an experience of another user here. So this is Lisa, my another user in the same tenant. As you can see, there isn't the web and work toggle in here. So she's just a Copilot user with enterprise data protection. You can see that green shield right on top. And the Viva Vault Assistant agent is available to her as well. So in her case, let me ask a different question. Let's see. How can we use neural network for cancer studies? Neural network was my undergrad project. I should have known the spelling, but I messed that up every time. So let me just, I'm pretty sure Copilot can work with my spelling as well. But yeah, just for this, my OCD, I'm going to correct that. And let's ask Copilot. Now, in order for Lisa, a non-$30 licensed user, there are certain configurations that need to be in place for her to use this, like in terms of setting up pay-as-you-go and things for this agent. But again, as you can see, she's able to get that data, and it's pulling from the graph neural network for cancer data integration that exists in my Viva Vault PromoMats instance. So you can share your agents grounded on Viva data. Grounded, sorry, on the PromoMats data. And it's as simple as just going ahead and building a agent using certain instructions. Like I said, that was the agent builder experience. We can look at the option of creating it through all using the Copilot Studio 1.2. But before we get into that, just wanted to quickly show, this is the URL that we are going to use. Probably let me see if I can paste that in later in the chat as well. This is the URL that talks about the configuration for your IT admins to set up PromoMats Graph Connector. And these are some of the use cases or some of the prompts that is tried and tested and which were built out working with some of our customers in the life sciences industry. So do give it a try, share any feedback that you have. It is today in public preview, so everybody should be able to see, and will soon be hitting general availability, I think even probably in the next few weeks. So again, some use cases for asset development, my marketing asset development in the pharma industry. That's probably the biggest use case in here. I like the fact that it helps you even prepare for, customer interactions. The drug discovery process, it's a lengthy process. In addition to, probably you might have very limited time in the marketing in the, when it comes to that side of the life cycle, and any time that you save in that process can speed up, go to market for these drugs. So these can be as simple as like how we showed. Again, there could be limitations, and some of those limitations are mentioned in this website as in the link as well. But yeah, it does start with, creating agent and some of the prompts that you have. And I'm actively working with a customer who's deploying it as we speak as well in a tenant environment. So yeah, I think that was a quick overview of the Viva Promo Mats graph connector within an agent.
Great, well done. Let's see, questions on that. Go ahead and drop them into chat. And here, I'll do, Mark, I'll cue you up in a minute. I'm going to do something really quick and just run through. I want to share how I explain these graph connectors to business users. So if like, wow, that was really compelling, we want to figure out how to do it. An illustration that I found really helpful is just to remind them, kind of like what I said right at the top, that it just allows me to take the tool set I'm using with Copilot and extend it. So, typically the way the Copilot works is when I put in a prompt, we'll actually send that out to the orchestrator up in Microsoft's web services. We actually break it down into a structured query, hit that against the Microsoft graph, and then we hit that against the large language model. And so just a reminder, we've mentioned this in the past, but what Copilot is using is a version of ChatGPT running inside of Microsoft Azure and constrained inside of your Microsoft 365 subscription. And sometimes that prompt has to go through several different cycles of remediation to kind of refine with a structured query exactly what the LLM needs to prepare the response that goes back to the user. What Maria just showed us with agents too, you'll sometimes hear people talk about messages in agents, like how many times does an agent need to contact the orchestrator to prepare the response. That looping is what those messages are. So as we're designing agents, one of the things we can do is kind of pre-populate some of the prompts and make sure that it's well architected so the agent itself doesn't have to grab additional information out of it. Then that response gets prepared, we do a responsible AI check, and we send it back down to the user. And that might be like a text-based response. Often people kind of start using Copilot at first, just in Copilot chat, asking questions like, what do I need to do to prepare for my meetings today? Or it might be an app response of some type. For example, an API connection that's making a call back down to say, create an object, put a card inside of Microsoft Teams, or give some type of response. But the most important thing with graph connectors is because it's going through Microsoft's graph connector infrastructure, and because we're doing a responsible AI check on it, all the permissions and information is retained when that information comes back into Microsoft 365 Copilot. So normally if I'm just working over business data, all this happens inside the Microsoft graph. If you allow web grounding, then we also send that structured query out in an anonymous fashion to Bing search and pull in web data. And then if I have a graph connector, this is where it comes in architecturally, it comes into the graph and gets pulled in. So I just kind of wanted to call out, it's just like reasoning across your work data, except it allows us to pull in that other system, but we get all the other goodness like enterprise data protection, security, and responsible AI checks that we get elsewhere inside to work with Microsoft 365 Copilot. So, okay, that was a stall for questions, and also kind of give Mark a chance to queue up. Let's see, Mark, how are you doing? Are you set?
Ready for action, Nick.
All right, let me grab our deck. I'll share the deck out and then advance it to your slides. Maria, thank you so much for joining us. Will you go ahead and drop the link into the connector into chat, and I'll make sure we get it copied in for follow-up as well, too. All right. And Mark, you're kicking us off with the Copilot Analytics update, correct?
Correct.
All right. Okay. Whenever you're ready, just grab control, and you've got the floor.
All right. Hello, everyone. Apologies for the little misstep getting all ready for this, and everything just kind of came to a stop at my house right before the webinar kicked off. So we've talked a lot of, yes, we've all talked about the dashboard and analytics within Copilot that we're providing and leveraging Viva Insights, and wanted to kind of walk through what does it take when we get to these next levels of beyond our regular dashboard. When we talk advanced analytics, how do we make these custom dashboards? So we talk about them. I'll show people things on GitHub. They say, okay, that looks great. I'm not sure if I ever hear from them again. So either it's that easy or they're just saying, oh, thanks, Mark, and no thanks. So thought today, let's go through, we're going to build a custom dashboard live and in person. So Just as a reminder, I brought this chart up just to show it is Viva Insights is kind of behind the scenes, um, enabling a lot of this advanced analytical capability. And it's now included with your Copilot licenses. So not something that you have to purchase extra. We just need to make sure it's set up properly in your environment, which folks like myself, we've got subject matter experts in Fast Track, glad to come in and help at no cost get this set up and running in your environment. So as we look at this, we've got our regular dashboard. We're looking at our usage, our adoption, some of the impact that we're tracking. But as we get into the more advanced analytics side of this conversation, now we're going to look at productivity shifts. How do we measure business value? I'll show you some of the templated reports we have as we kind of dive in on the custom dashboard as well. And this one, I left this in and the next slide really just as a good outline of, so we start with, here's our core, foundational, get our Copilot dashboard working. Then we get into things like our business impact report and these advanced analytics that allow us to do these customizations. This slide, if we send it out, has all the links to each of the documentation for each of those different things that are out there. And this one just kind of shows the typical path. So regardless of where you might be at in your organization on the journey, it's kind of like how we'll help you get there. And so we're glad to do that, absolute no cost. So with that, enough slideware, let's go directly into the demo. So I will share my screen. And hopefully that's coming through okay.
Yeah, we see it. Yep, I see the like
excellent,
the GitHub.
Excellent.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So first thing I will do is I will just put this right into the chat so that the link to this one on GitHub. This was provided by one of our Fast Track subject matter experts. And what they're really giving us, there's actually two dashboards that are out here. This one is an audit one, a little more advanced, but can be very helpful. We are going to today build this one, our Copilot dashboard. So as I come in here, first is I have a couple files, and ones that we are for sure going to need is this PBIX, which is the Power BI template file, and then the Word document, which is the instructions for this. You can download some of these other ones. They do have some value along the way as well. And so let's switch over to our instruction file. So this is the doc that we downloaded from there. So kind of walks through what we're going to do. We will create a new custom person query in what's called the analyst workbench. And I'll show you this analyst workbench. It's something that IT needs to put someone in a role called the Insights Analyst role that allows you to use this to create these queries and then output it for creating dashboards or other analysis that we're doing. And we'll go through and we'll set that up as per the instructions. Then we will go through and we're going to use that Power BI template that's already provided, and we're going to start to then build out our dashboard. And so within here, we've got a couple options. One is after I run my query, I get, it's a CSV output file, big spreadsheet, lots of data. You could do an analysis directly against it if you so choose, but at the same time, it's still just a point in time file. So it's not something to refresh. So it's a great way to like get your dashboard working correctly, but then ongoing, you probably don't want to have to go rerun that query yourself, update that dashboard manually. So we'll show how to actually then change that so that it's automated. So you get it set up. Now it can go directly back into Viva Insights, get my updated data and show that to my users. So let's go do this in real time. And we'll start with the analyst workbench. So that I am on the home page of it. So this analysis.insights.cloud.microsoft's URL, you probably have to look it up if you're going to begin using this. It's not something you'll find in just M365 as you're browsing through apps. But once I come in here, I'm on the home page and I've got options to create different queries. And we're going to do this custom query in just a moment. I did want to show, if I come over and I click on the Copilot, this is where that Copilot impact, Copilot adoption, there's a sales adoption, and even the business outcome report. The templates are there for you, so you can run these immediately. Sorry. And I just wanted to show here, like, here's the impact report. So once I run this, now my output, I actually get the Power BI report with that. So Microsoft has done a lot of the work for you. You just have to come in, run it, and then share out that Power BI report for other people to see. So let's go through and let's create our analysis. And so we're going to do the custom query with a person query. And as I come in here, I can give it a name. I can select a time period. So it can be 1 month, 3 months, 1 year, or even custom description. I set my dates. I can even set auto refresh. So this is where it'll just run. If you hover over the little information button there, then it'll get updated daily. So now we need to add metrics. What metrics are we interested in pulling with our query? I'll click the add, and this is in the instructions. And so what I want first is I want all of the Microsoft 365 Copilot metrics. You'll notice there's a bunch. So this is just information Viva Insights is collecting behind the scenes. Now I'm going to do a query so that I can actually then leverage that for my analytics and my reporting. Then we also need to pull in, it's under collaboration activity, and we want meeting hours and meetings. And so notice these are kind of high level sections. I can pull the whole section, or I can be very granular and just pull specific ones. So if you get to next steps of you want to create your own, this is where you can choose which ones we want to do. So I'm going to add that to my query. So now these are all the metrics that it'll pull over the time period specified. And then down here, there's some specific attributes that I want to pull. So the first one is organization. And the second one is the function type. And we'll add those to our query. So now if I were to proceed and just hit run, this would take about an hour. And so we got to wait for that to complete. So instead of waiting for that, we will go, and I've pre-run this. So if I look at my query results, here we see our webinar person query, and I ran it a couple days ago, and I can download a CSV. So from that CSV, it will come and it will be a zip file. So I have to extract it. It gives me this metric output folder. And in there's the CSV file. So as we look at that, I'll just give you a glimpse. Here's a lot of information. And I wanted to show everyone something because this tripped me up as I was walking through. I actually had to go talk to the SME that created the documentation, and he's now updating his documentation. So I'm going to save you all a little pain. But if I click on this, just the first row, I see that I've got 68 columns that have data. So remember that number, 68. That'll be important here in just a moment. So now the next thing we'll do is we're going to open the Power BI file. So that opens up into the Power BI desktop. Sometimes takes a second because it kind of loads a few things up. And it's got just template data from when it was built that is in here. So now we've got this, it's pre-built for us. Got a lot of things. We've got time slicers, we've got some charts, we've got specific data, showing us on time reclaimed from different features. So a lot of great information in this one. We need to get our data. So we'll go into transform data. And as this comes up, it's going to give me an error. So data source not found. So it's going for that CSV file, but notice this is Alejandro. He created it. It's in here. So we need to fix that is what we need to do. And the instructions are in the document. So we go into the advanced editor and we see here's that path. Now that's kind of long. I really don't want to have to retype that. So quick little tip here. If I right click in File Explorer on my file, I have the option copy as path. So let's copy as path, come back here, and we will highlight the errored one, and I will do Control V to paste it. And then the one thing this did is it put an extra quote there at the end. So we really only want one. Make sure it's clean on this side. So we clean that up. And now remember, we had that number 68 for the columns. This is what tripped me up as I was preparing for this demo. In the template, the columns equals 48. And it would miss columns that are after that 48. So it needed to update this number. And you can actually even just type 100 in here if you don't want to check it. But that allows it to go get the information that we need. So once I fix that, now I can say done. Now, boom, now it sees my data. Awesome. If I do close and apply, now we're going to notice it's loading. Our numbers and metrics here are going to immediately change because now it is using my actual data. So as you're setting this up, this is how you will start to see your information. All right. So I did promise that we could show how to do this from the Viva Insights report directly. So if we go back into transform data, and I go back to it's the advanced editor allows me to do that. What I would need to do is take this line, this is the Viva Insights data, and if I put this out here, and then there's this number and this number, which is just a long hexadecimal string. Where I go is right here in my query results. And if I hit the link, it gives me the partition identifier. This is the accurate set of hexadecimal gobbledygook that goes in there. And I copy that one, paste it into the line. And then the query identifier is the second one. I copy that, put it directly in for these two spots. And one thing that it has to have is a comma at the end, and it will give you an error. It's actually showing here, token, a comma is expected. So if I do the comma, that gets rid of that. So now I won't apply this change. I just wanted to show that is how you go ahead and do that. We would get rid of the duplicate source line and we would use this one, as well as we'd get rid of promoted header. So that's all in the document for the instructions for that. So we will not keep those changes. And back here on our dashboard now, great. I've got a dashboard in Power BI that I love. What in the world do I do with it? So from here, I can just save it as a Power BI file. I can share that file out, or I can publish this to Power BI service. And so when I do that, that allows me to even share it further. So I can make it a tab in Teams. I can pull it up on a SharePoint website, all those kinds of things once I've got that done. So that publishing, and I'll show you a little bit of how that works, is I save that as a file. And if I come back here and I look in my teams, let's just go into a channel. And if I want to add a tab, this is where I can select a Power BI application, save that. And then I can add a link or browse the workspaces. So when I do that publishing, I can actually then go back, and we've got an area here. I can just then pull that right in. And now I've got my Power BI dashboard shared in Teams for those who need to see it. So after I did this the first time, it took me a little while, especially having to overcome the errors. But then once I got used to it, I could run through this set of instructions in about 5 minutes. So it really didn't take much to do this. A common question that customers will ask is, well, can I produce it for, say, departmental leads, but have them only see their data? That answer is yes, that can be done. And our fast track SMEs can kind of help with how to set that up. So we just need to get in a working session. And like I said earlier, that is no cost to customers. So I work with a lot of customers directly. We pull in our subject matter experts as well. And we can really make sure that your reporting requirements are met for this. And customers are getting a lot of value just from being able to see this and help with their adoption efforts that they're having within their organizations. So with that, questions. Feel free to drop those in the chat. Glad to show anything else that I could while we're here on the webinar.
That was awesome. I followed about 3/4 of it, and I work with you on your team. What I have found just amazing here with this concept of a custom dashboard is, as much as Microsoft, we try to anticipate what questions people are going to ask, what leaders are going to want to see. You just can't, right? We're all unique. Every organization is unique. This allows me to build a tool that lets my leadership or myself track the metrics I care about, and position it in a way that everyone can get to and consume. One of my favorite, like Power BI add-in capabilities as well, sort of under the covers, is you can export these things to PowerPoint and then refresh them automatically. So no matter what tool we have that's out there, like everyone always wants to have a PowerPoint deck, that has like, the final summary state for like Scrum meetings or something like that. And so I find bringing both of those together, a custom dashboard, that renders here for analysts to see, but also shows up in PowerPoint for my leadership to have access to and refresh automatically, is a really good way to see that progress.
Yeah, I get another question from customers quite a bit of, why doesn't Microsoft produce a report that'll show like usernames for this? Very common question. And something like, I can go into the admin center or even the audit logs, I can get that information as IT or from a governance perspective. But when I had a conversation with one of the product group leaders about this, he said, if we were to produce something like that, where it actually gave out user identifiable information in a report, 80+% of our customers would not be able to use it. Microsoft itself would not be able to use it. So that really comes back to internal policy within an organization and making sure that, one, you're following that, and then two, we give you the facility to do that, even some templates for how to do it, but you as our customer, you need to enable that within your environment. Microsoft will not do that.
Yeah, it's a great point. And especially too, depending on where you're at, like if you're working in the EU, there's a lot more controls that need to be enabled there than in other places, depending on the work council that you're within. So we want to give you that flexibility. Why don't we transition to me? because I'm going to touch on a webinar that we have where we kind of step through all those controls. It's the Customer Hub series, so I'll mention that, Mark, when we come in. Will you remain on? And yeah, people have questions for Mark, drop them in. And Mark, you sound like you're getting over a little bit of a sniffle, or you're really emotional about these dashboards, one of the two.
I do get really excited about it, but it's probably more the sniffles that are impacting me.
Let's see, Andy, if I take 5 minutes and then toss to you, is that enough time for the roadmap at the end? Sorry, put you on the spot.
That's easily enough time, Nick. Yes.
Okay. All right. Then I'm going to cover 3 slides quickly, do a very short demo, and then bring up Mr. Morris. And all these builds seem like a good deal last night. Let me get rid of them. I wanted to just talk a little bit about Copilot Chat again, and a couple more tools we have available to enable chat. And by that I mean the Copilot experience that comes with a Microsoft 365 Enterprise license, but not the full $30 retail per month Copilot for Microsoft 365 license that includes all the capabilities. So you might remember we mentioned this multiple times, and we introduced this in January and said, hey, we want to provide just a kind of a basic chat experience that doesn't look at the Microsoft graph data, but is able to reason over information in the LLM, able to reason over web-based information, and even gives you a little bit of ability to upload files and reason one at a time over them. And part of that is a bit of a stopgap as well, too. So I just want to call out a couple of things. The first is, this is the diagram for enterprise data protection. That's in place both for the full Microsoft 365 Copilot experience and Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat. And the reason I'm calling this out is if I'm using Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat instead of another LLM tool, I get a couple of things with that in terms of protection of my organizational data. When we send a query, remember the diagram I showed earlier and said we break the prompt into a structured query and send that out to Bing? There's a few things we do that protects the organizational data when we do it. The first is everything's sent by a secure connection. Secondly, everything is anonymized and protected from any of our other Bing-related or web-related services. So searches or prompts inside a Copilot or Copilot Chat, they don't affect things like search rankings. That data doesn't show up anywhere else, or it can be assessed for like trends or additional information. It's anonymized, so not only do we not share like the user that it's coming from, but we also don't share any information on the tenant. So anyone that's running any type of search analytics on their website, they're not able to see any of that information coming back. There's also a toggle that allows the administrator, allows those of us that are in IT to even turn that completely off and still provide Copilot Chat and the large language model as a sort of inbox AI tool, so I can at least use some of the AI capabilities, just hit it against the LLM, but I'm not going out and using another tool. So what this reminds me of as an older person is like back when people were bringing their own file sharing solutions to work. Now, if you remember like 15 years ago, if you wanted to send a large attachment to somebody, say a 20 meg file, you would put it somewhere like Box or Dropbox or your consumer OneDrive, or there were third-party tools that allow you to send big files around. And that was always a risk because, then I'm not transferring that information securely. However, people were always, kind of angry at their Exchange server admins because their file attachment size was like 5 megs or something. So if you don't give users a way to do something, they want to do their job, they will work around it. So using Copilot Chat is just a nice way to kind of mitigate that tendency to have shadow IT or bring your own AI tool. There's 3 things we've seen that make this successful. The first is using some of the networking tools available to us to just block or redirect access to other unsupported tools and point them to Copilot Chat. So a common one is just to go into network proxy settings and redirect URLs and calls out to other tools, point them to Microsoft365.com/chat, or point it with a header that says, hey, this is our approved tool for our organization, then redirects it. Especially as working with like clinicians, working with scientists, working with product designers, they tend to be really deep in domain expertise, but then not really broad outside of that, and will take the shortest path to done. So while I can try and train as much as I can to use this tool, we're starting to see from just anecdotally in the customers that we work with, like that kind of hard code redirection is sometimes necessary to prevent that shadow IT. The second of the 3 things is to just make sure that people can find the darn thing. And so pinning Copilot or Copilot chat on the side rail, inside of Microsoft Teams, inside of Outlook, even on the taskbar in Windows 11. It just makes it more accessible. So, people, this is the admin center UI, but Teams and Outlook look the same. They don't have to click that 3 dots and go find the button and click on it. Just having it right there so they can find it easily really helps them get to it a little bit faster. So Copilot chat, just to enable it, I mentioned when Mark said this a second ago, I'll drop this link into chat here as soon as I'm done. But I just want to call out, we have these ongoing sessions that we do. We're repeating them again and again. Here, let me see if I can jump out and show you what these look like. What we're doing is, let's find it here really quick. We call this our customer hub. And so if I go out to the link that I'm about to drop in and click on this one that says Copilot Chat for all users, we have 4 webinars that we're just repeating again and again several times each week. And the intent of these 4 webinars is to take you through preparing, enabling the technology and the user adoption journey for Copilot Chat. So you can jump in at any time for any one of these. I'll drop the link and it has the full description, but it's going to go a little bit slower through what I've just shared and show you step by step how to do it. So that's kind of leads us up to the last component, which is just user adoption. So the last 2 of those 2 webinars focus on adoption, and we released one more tool set. We had something we called the Great Copilot Journey. We now have something called the Great Copilot Chat Journey. And it's a kit meant to be used over 30 days with email templates, some training assets, and some guidance to just help users become aware, start working with Copilot Chat. So let me show you a couple quick examples out of this, and then Andy, I'll toss it back over to you. So I, just for fun, I grabbed all of these adoption resources that we have up on adoption.microsoft.com and toss it up to a SharePoint library. So after today, I'm going to go in and actually build an agent for this library so I can reason over across things really quickly. But what the Copilot Chat Journey has in it is a collection of templates that you can leverage and send out. There's some digital badges, and it's a really nice complement to our training kit. So for example, if I want to grab one of these, here, let's grab this. I'll just download it and open it up in Outlook and pop it up. So here's the template that it gives me that I could then send out to my users. So for day 3, it says, here's something you can try in Copilot Chat. And you'll notice it's something that any user can do. We don't use any graph grounding in any of these tips. So this is just the free, or excuse me, not free, included with Microsoft 365 chat experience. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of train users and get them used to working with generative AI. I'm going to prevent and discourage them from using third-party tools. And I've got the protection because this is still running inside that diagram I showed earlier. The responsible AI checks are still happening. The chat logging is still available. We still do the enterprise data protection for Microsoft on all of that. It's just a really nice stopgap solution, especially if you have leadership that's just chomping at the bit going, hey, we need to turn on AI for everybody. What's our strategy? And you're sitting there going, what we really need to do is clean up our SharePoint environment before we turn all that stuff on. This gives me a nice way to enable that. And then I can go back in with those licenses provisioned and turn on the full Copilot experience for everyone. So I'll drop all 3 of these links in, the link to our technical webinar series on how to enable Copilot Chat, and then these 2 links for user enablement for Copilot Chat. Of course, Microsoft, we want you to use and acquire the full Copilot license, but we're not all ready to do that right away. This gives me a great resource as I prepare for what's coming. And then to that, Andy, to prepare for what's coming, do you want to share your screen or do you want me to drive the slides from here? I'm open either way.
I was just going to take control of yours if that works for you.
Let me do a quick reshare then because I forgot to include sound. So let's do that. Yeah. And then do you want to take control and advance? We'll just make sure this works to get to your bumper slide.
Yep.
There's the button, give control. All right. Now I got to remember not to touch anything on the computer. It'll take focus off of PowerPoint. And then actually, let me do that. Okay, are you able to advance? Success. All right.
I am. That's fantastic.
All right, awesome.
Okay, great. So I'm going to take a few minutes here and talk a little bit about some of the changes coming in Microsoft 365 Copilot. I like to take a little time. We like to take time in these webinars to kind of hit some of the highlights. We're not going to go through the entire roadmap, but did want to point out a few things that came up very recently. So back on, I think it was March 25th or so, we announced 4 new things coming into Microsoft 365 Copilot, particularly around the agent space. And I think some of these are going to have some really important impacts, or could have some important impacts on you as health and life sciences customers, because what we're really doing is we're making agents smarter. We're giving them more capabilities, and to be more capabilities to be more effective in what they're doing for your organizations. So across this slide here, I've got the researcher agent, the analyst agent, deep reasoning, and agent flows. And you can see a short description here and some of the targeted roadmap releases for these. Those are always subject to change, so don't hold that as Bible truth right now. We'll talk more about roadmap here in a few minutes. So let me start by talking about the researcher agent. So this is going to be another agent that's put out by Microsoft for you. And it's the researcher agent is going to be a part of Copilot, and it's going to be designed to assist with deep reasoning research at work. And the way this is different than what's happening now in just Microsoft 365 Copilot is it's going to be using some more advanced reasoning models to distill vast amounts of information into more well-founded conclusions. So that researcher is going to do some of the same things that Copilot does now, which is to reason over enterprise data sources like emails and chats, meeting recordings, documents, and some of those third-party connectors like we've seen already on this call. But the thing that you'll notice when you start using researcher is it's going to take more time. So whereas your responses in like Microsoft 365 Copilot are going to be fairly quick, researcher is going to take its time. And it's doing that because it's using a more advanced data model, and it's trying to come up with better responses for you. So in the end, it's going to produce more thorough, accurate, and deeply contextualized research reports that are hopefully going to be saving researchers in your organizations lots of time. So the way that it does this, I'm not going to go too deep. I've added a link on the slide that goes to a blog post that will go more deep into the very particular parts of what researcher is doing. But really what its methodology is doing is it's taking a 3-phase approach. So when a user prompts the researcher agent, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to go into an initial planning phase. And that's where it's going to analyze the user utterance and try to in context to formulate kind of a high-level plan. And during this phase, it's going to ask clarifying questions if needed. And once it's got its high-level plan in place, it's going to begin sort of an iterative research phase. So this is where it's starting to think a little more like a human. It's doing a little more critical thinking. So it's going to be kind of going through a cycle of reasoning, retrieving, and reviewing information, and doing that iteratively until it reaches a point of diminishing returns. At that point, it goes into its third phase, which is then its synthesis phase, which it consolidates its findings, it analyzes patterns, and draws conclusions, and then eventually drafts a report for the researcher. So what we're going to see out of researcher is a more hopefully accurate information, deeper knowledge, and then what we're seeing in our early testing is significant improvements in accuracy, completedness, and relevance of results. So stay tuned for that. Researcher will come with an additional cost. So if you are interested in what you're hearing now, talk to your Microsoft account team about what that might look like for your organization. Also, similar to researcher, we announced the coming of another agent that's going to use deep reasoning, and this one's called the analyst agent. And analyst is going to be a deep reasoning powered agent integrated into Microsoft 365 Copilot. And this one is going to be designed to provide sophisticated data analytics capabilities. So think of this one as kind of the virtual data scientist that's going to leverage that deep reasoning to handle complex data analysis and tasks. So this one's designed to navigate over structured data, such as Excel sheets and databases and CSV files and Power BI reports. and help users extract pivotal information and gain insights from messy and complex data sets. So in the real world, analyst is going to be very, very good at handling these real world data complexities, such as hidden data within Excel sheets, some of the common data problems we have, correcting delimiter issues, and really then exploring data through its hypothesis testing steps, much like we see in the researcher app. It's going to do a lot of that same iterative approach to data analysis. And again, what you're going to see out of the analyst agent is a little bit of a slower experience for Microsoft 365 Copilot, because it's going to be using these iterative phases, but you're going to end up with a more accurate and deep and more contextualized result. So take a look at those as they come out. Again, with more questions, I've got another blog post here on the analyst agent, slide here. So I'll put those links in after the session there, so you all can see those as well. And incidentally, we have been testing our analyst agent against Microsoft 365 Copilot. Not that it's a competition, but we have seen some very good results as far as analysts coming back with more complete and better information on the tasks that it's been given against Microsoft 365 Copilot. So what that might mean for your organization is a little more of some of the exercises that you do when you try to determine who gets a Copilot license versus who might use Copilot Chat. Well, you might be looking at the roles in your organization and saying, okay, which roles are going to need a deep researcher application agent like the researcher app, or who needs the analyst app, and so on and so forth. So kind of another aspect to put into your Copilot planning for your organization. So I keep using the term deep reasoning, and deep reasoning is that new capability that we're seeing built into the researcher app and the analyst app. But this is also going to be available for you to build into your own apps within Copilot Studio. So deep reasoning is that ability to use that higher level LLM or data set that does the deeper analysis that, like I said, takes a little more time to do, but will then allow for deeper and more contextualized results. And to show a little bit about deep reasoning and agents, I do have a video. So I'm going to click next here, Nick, and hopefully this will take off for me. It's about 90 seconds, so we'll hear what it has to say.
Imagine your team receives frequent requests for proposals, or RFPs, from clients. The RFP requires extensive collaboration, timely information access, and high-quality responses to win the deal. Agents in Copilot Studio can help your team complete an ambiguous or multi-part process like an RFP. You can use deep reasoning in Copilot Studio and instruct the agent to create formal responses to an RFP. Just provide the details in natural language. For example, you can tell the agent to use CRM data and product information stored across various files in SharePoint to find answers to your client's questions. All you have to do is instruct the agent to use reasoning in order to incorporate the advanced model into the process. Then connect your knowledge sources, select actions, and add triggers that the agent will use to draft the RFP. Now that the agent is set up, you can test the agent trigger to validate that it's running correctly. And watch the agent's process in real time as it selects the most appropriate steps to write the RFP. You can see deep reasoning in action as the agent analyzes large amounts of data to generate precise and well-thought-out responses for the client. And you're done. Now, as soon as an RFP arrives in your inbox, the autonomous agent will send a first draft in Teams, so that the team can collaborate and get back to their customer sooner. Easily build agents that complete processes for you using your enterprise data and deep reasoning in Copilot Studio.
All right, so deep reasoning coming into Copilot Studio, very exciting, coming soon. Public preview now, so once again, to keep track of that,
hold on, lost track of the computer just a second.
I finally figured out the real
stop.
between a Machado.
No.
Hey everyone, big
Stop. Okay, let me exit out of. It's because it's rendering the embedded YouTube video full screen. So let me toss it back up.
Cool.
Okay, I think this
That's
is where you
perfect.
were going next. Okay,
Yep, that's
and
where
then
I'm
you
going.
should
Perfect.
be able to take control again. Hit that, see if you can. Yay, success. All right.
Got it.
I don't know why I'm
Okay.
surprised when our products work the way they're supposed to, but
So anyway, deep reasoning is in a public preview now. Again, ask the account teams about how you could get that and leverage that within your own tenant. Copilot's getting smarter, and that's super exciting to see what all of our organizations are going to be doing with it. And then lastly, we saw a little bit about this in that last video, but I've got another short little snip here coming in a minute about another capability that we announced called agent flows. And agent flows are a type of automation that are going to let users predefine a sequence of actions and triggers that execute structured tasks the same way every time, so that you can make these agents more autonomous to be working for you. And again, I'll show you a quick video here about agent flows. Hopefully we have sound on this one too.
Copilot Studio is where you build agents. Now you can also use it to build agent flows to automate your business processes in a predictable way. Say that you want to triage customer feedback. You can build an agent flow for this. Just write what you want in natural language and watch Copilots build the flow, complete with actions. Next, review which data sources are connected. Then click Create. In seconds, your agent flow is ready. Once feedback comes in, it will summarize the feedback and direct it to the right place. You can see how your flow is summarizing feedback by providing a prompt that categorizes feedback as it comes in. You can choose the right model for the summary from a selection of over 1,800 models and test it out to see how it categorized feedback before returning to your flow. You can now add an Outlook action so that the right team automatically receives an email with the customer feedback. Once you're done, publish the flow and test it out. But that's not all. You can also add pre-existing flows to an agent to consistently and quickly triage customer feedback. Now, your agent is ready to help you and your customers sooner.
All right. And if you could advance me to the next one there, Nick.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Otherwise, we'll bring up my YouTube history. You'll see all the Melrose Place clips I watch again and again. All right.
So yeah, those were 4 announcements I wanted to point out to you all that came since our last session. Exciting stuff. Like I said, Copilot's getting smarter. Copilot's getting more automated, and it's exciting times for you and your organizations. Any questions on any of those? You could direct them toward Mark, Nick, or I, or again, like I said, your account teams to get those specific situations then into your tenant and get using those as soon as possible. The last slide I was going to talk to, Nick, I think it's going to come
sorry.
up here.
I'm gonna share the PowerPoint live just so they can click on the links. Sorry, I'll bring it up here in a second. Here you
it was just
dance,
a slide
and I'll have it up.
Yeah, sure. The last slide I was going to talk to, Nick, was the one that you put together that kind of lists where to keep up on change in Microsoft 365.
Yeah, here it comes.
So this is just a reminder to everyone when things are moving quickly and they are changing quickly. Here are your authoritative sources for change in Microsoft 365. I won't drain the whole slide, but we have our roadmaps, we have our message centers, we have other public-facing documentation and blogs that you can check out to keep on top of the changes as they come out. And then always your Microsoft 365 or your Microsoft account team is here to help you. So reach out to any of us or your account team. We're happy to help you keep on top of all of the things coming down the pipe. So with that, I think my section is wrapped up, Nick. I can probably pass it back to finish us off.
Yeah, sounds good. Here, I'm going to drop in just into the chat. I'll grab the links you shared earlier just because we had it in the, we were doing a screen share instead of PowerPoint Live.
Sure.
That's for video, actually. So right now, just as an aside, Teams meeting recording, if you have an embedded YouTube video, it doesn't grab it. So you sometimes have to hop back and forth like that. A screencast does. So I'll drop in the links, Andy, to the research agent and analyst agent posts that you shared. So if you do want to go a little bit deeper on those and find out a little bit more, and then let me do one last one. So these are all the blog posts that Andy just highlighted, kind of covering the researcher agent, analyst agent, and deep reasoning. Great. All right. Well then, so thanks everyone for kind of sent through that as we covered it. The last thing we actually have is just a quick survey. We love to get your feedback on how the session went. If there's other information you'd like to see, another topic. I forgot to update my URL, but this still goes to the same survey. So if you ak.ms/feb20 feedback, or you can, if you have your phone up, you can hit that with the camera in your phone and grab the QR code. And that'll let the three of us know what to focus on in May. As far as we know, there's nothing huge that they've told us about. However, the Microsoft 365 conference is happening in Las Vegas. Is into the first week in May, and that typically a lot of times we'll wait until our big conferences like that or Ignite to make announcements. So I suspect we'll probably have something new to share at the next session. So any guidance you give us on what you'd like to see will really assist. Let's see, let me grab, let's see, do you see Christopher's question there, Andy? So that's coming in from OSF.
Take a look here.
It's about the Frontier program. I'll grab that for follow-up along with the CVS. Make sure they get the stuff. Okay, Frontier program.
Yeah, we could take a look at that.
Okay.
I'm a little familiar with that program.
Okay.
I'm not sure if they're still taking new customers, but we can check in on that.
I grabbed Christopher's email, so I'll drop it into our group chat once we're done.
Okay.
Yeah, give us a little bit later today, Christopher. We'll find the status on that. All right. Other comments, questions, thoughts? Anyone wake up today thinking, hey, I got that Microsoft webinar? Yes, I want to ask about. Good opportunity to do it. Counting to 10 in my head. All right. Well, I think that'll take us then to the end of the day today. So everyone, thanks for joining us. We'll send a reminder before we do the May session. And in that reminder, we'll also include the links here that we talked about. I'll close my session out with, just remember, AI for all. If you have an opportunity to enable some of these tools for your users, you'll be ahead of the game and give them a chance to do that safely. So feel free to hit us up with questions and the emails that we send for follow-up. If you want to go any deeper on what you saw today from the Viva connector, the analyst dashboard, the custom dashboard, the deep reasoning announcements, and toolkits we've got to help users take advantage of all this stuff, please let us know. Yeah, Jessica will send that out as a follow-up email to set up the sides. Otherwise, everyone, thanks so much for joining us. I'll leave the slide up for a while for survey, and I'll go ahead and take us off the screen, guys. Thanks again.
Thank you,
Ray,
everyone.
thanks for your session too. Wow.